The lecture hall of the Arvani Academy for Strategic Studies was silent, except for the soft hum of projectors and the occasional rustle of digital notepads. Hundreds of cadets from a dozen species sat in tiered rows, their eyes fixed on an enormous screen at the front of the room. Today's lesson was primitive conflict analysis. The instructor, a tall, translucent-skinned being named Professor HFY, had promised him a glimpse into the tactics of extinct or sub-tier civilizations. The cadets had been eager. Primitive battles were always good for a laugh. On the screen flickered images of muddy trenches, black smoke, and human soldiers in drab uniforms. Explosions bloomed like ugly flowers across fields of torn earth. This, Professor HFY intoned in his hollow voice, is the species known as Homo sapiens, or humans, engaged in what they call the First World War. This conflict took place over a century before their first spaceflight. Several cadets shifted, exchanging amused glances. To them, it was absurd. Species at war with themselves before even achieving interstellar travel. They lacked particle shielding, HFY continued, and their weapons were chemical propellant projectiles. Crude, inefficient, yet observe the intensity with which they deployed themselves. The footage cut to men climbing out of trenches into open fire, charging across no man's land. They fell in waves, but others surged forward. Notice, HFY said, the casualty tolerance. Most species at this level would retreat or surrender. Humans advanced. A low hiss of disapproval rolled through the hall. Grell, a reptilian cadet with scales like burnished copper, flicked his tongue. "They're deranged," he whispered to his seatmate. Another cadet, a feathered Zalian named Verk, chuckled. "Or desperate. This is primitive barbarism, not strategy." Professor HFY's lidless eyes turned toward the whispering pair, and they fell silent. Primitive or not, this species survived its infancy. That alone warrants study. The footage shifted again. This time it was black and white film of bombed-out cities, civilians digging through rubble, yet still working, still rebuilding. Then came the Second World War. Amphibious landings, tanks rolling through fire, soldiers fighting hand-to-hand in ruined streets. The cadets stared as flames rose higher, as entire cities were reduced to ash. At this stage, HFY murmured, many civilizations collapse. Humans did not. They industrialized war. They adapted. Verk leaned back, feathers rippling uneasily. "Professor, are you implying the species was resilient?" "Resilient," HFY echoed softly. "Yes, but more than that. Watch closely." The footage jumped forward again. Grainy clips of helicopters roaring over jungles. Men and women in camouflage moving with strange fluidity. They looked gaunt, exhausted, but their eyes were sharp, always scanning. They set traps, improvised weapons, fought in heat and disease that would kill other beings in hours. Now even Grell stopped smirking. "Those conditions," he muttered, "poisonous. Unstable gravity fluctuations. No shields, no bioprotection. They're still fighting. They are," HFY said, "and note their innovation. Every war, every battle, they change tactics. They learn. Even in defeat, they adapt faster than their adversaries." The room was growing tense. The cadets had expected a laugh at primitive warfare, but instead they were feeling something else, an instinctive unease. The footage jumped again. This time it was in color, crisp high definition. Urban combat footage from the early space age. Humans in lightweight body armor, coordinating with drones. Small teams moving like a single organism, striking hard and vanishing. The cadets leaned forward. This no longer looked like primitive war. This looked like something else. HFY's voice was quieter now, almost reverent. "Understand this. Humans fought each other for hundreds of thousands of years. This shaped them. Selection pressure does not only occur in nature, but in conflict. They became apex predators of their own kind before turning their eyes outward. This is why we study them." Grell raised a claw hesitantly. "But Professor, humans are a minor polity now. They control only a handful of systems. Their fleets are small. Surely, HFY interrupted. "You have heard of the Drill incursion?" Murmurs rippled through the hall. Everyone had. The Drill were a conquering swarm, their fleets unmatched. 5 standard years ago, they had attempted to seize a resource-rich system belonging to the Terran Confederation. The battle had been classified for a long time, but fragments had leaked. Some said an entire Drill fleet had been annihilated by human forces. Others said the Drill simply vanished. KHYRR turned back to the screen. "Classified footage," he said softly. "You will not find this on public nets." The lights dimmed further. The screen went black. Then it flared alive with the image of deep space, a Terran colony world orbiting a yellow star. Dozens of Drill warships emerged from FTL, glittering like knives. The cadets inhaled sharply. Drill ships were fast, armored, deadly. Against such a force, a small human fleet floated. Barely a dozen warships. Their hulls were scarred, old, patched together. A joke. Verk laughed nervously. "They're finished." "Watch," KHYR said. The Drill advanced. The human ships held position, not fleeing, not signaling surrender. Then, suddenly, the screen filled with movement. From behind asteroids, from low orbit, from hidden positions, hundreds of smaller signatures appeared. Drones mined kinetic weapons, all camouflaged. The Drill fleet's formation collapsed as hidden fire erupted from every direction. Human ships darted like wolves among the chaos, hitting engine communications, supply ships first. On the screen, a single human frigate rammed a Drill battleship and detonated, crippling 3 others. The cadets gasped. "They're sacrificing themselves?" Verk whispered. "Not sacrifice," KHYR said. "Calculation." The battleship's destruction allowed their fleet to escape encirclement. And note, even as their ships die, they transmit data. Every human vessel is a sensor. Every loss a lesson for the next strike. The footage accelerated. The Drill fleet was in disarray, ships colliding, firing blindly. Human vessels slipped through gaps, launching strikes at critical nodes. Then the screen went white. When it cleared, half the Drill fleet was gone. The remainder fled. Silence filled the lecture hall. The cadets stared at the screen, as if it might lunge at them. "This," KHYR said softly, "was the first engagement. The humans have been outnumbered 6-1. They won. The Drill have not returned." Verk swallowed hard. His feathers were flat now. No trace of amusement. "Professor, this is not primitive. This is war," KHYR said. "Real war. The kind most species cannot fathom until it's too late." Grell's scale shivered. "Why show us this?" "Because," KHYR said, stepping forward, "your empires will encounter them. You will think them weak, unimportant. But understand, humans do not show their teeth until they must. And when they must," he gestured at the frozen image of the shattered Drill fleet. "This happens." The cadets were silent. Each species had its own myths of invincibility, its own pride. But watching those flickering images had done something words could not. They had seen humans bleeding in trenches and still advancing. They had seen them fight in jungles, deserts, frozen tundras. They had seen them learn, adapt, and finally rise into space carrying that same relentless drive. The screen went dark. KHYR turned back to his class. Lesson 1. Never underestimate a species forged in conflict. Lesson 2. Never mistake restraint for weakness. Lesson 3. He paused. His gaze swept over the room, eyes like chips of ice. If you ever see a human smile during war, you are already too late. No one spoke. The hum of the projectors faded. In the hush, even the usually cocky Verk and Grell felt a chill crawl up their spines. Because as they sat there, the realization settled in, not just about humans, but about themselves. All their training, their simulations, their clean wars fought with shields and distance. None of it prepared them for an enemy like this. And somewhere, far from the lecture hall, humanity went about its business, unaware or uncaring of how it was being studied, how its old wars were turning into whispered legends in alien classrooms. The cadets had come to laugh at primitive footage. Instead, they had glimpsed the galaxy's most dangerous predator, one that smiled through blood and fire, one that learned and adapted and endured. For the first time, the young warriors of dozen species understood what their instructors had been trying to teach them all along. History is not just about weapons or technology. It's about will. And there was no will in the galaxy like that of a human at war.